Welcome to Insurance Marketers. It's going to be a show that Cody and I are doing every week on Thursday at 2 p.m. at this time. So what I want to do today is, one, set the stage for what the show is going to be like. Two, I want to walk through a interesting point that I want to bring up. That I'm a part of a lot of Facebook groups that are insurance marketing Facebook groups and Medicare groups and just lots of different groups. So I kind of see the chatter and I see the different common themes of insurance marketing questions often. So one of the things that I want to cover is going to be a really hot topic right now during AEP and all that. So firstly, this show is going to be dedicated to really helping you guys as an insurance agents, producers, agencies, carriers, whatever, just kind of understand what's the heartbeat of the insurance marketing world right now, specifically digital. So I'm not ever going to be speaking to anything that has to do with TV or radio or billboards, newspaper, direct mail, because I don't do any of those things. I'm only going to be the digital marketing sort of voice, if you will. Just to set some context, in July, or maybe August at this point, I can't remember which month I looked at, I think it was July, we spent $850,000 on Facebook, Instagram, Google, YouTube, purely to generate insurance leads, whether it be Medicare, final expense, term life, disability income, long-term care, recruiting ads as well, anything that has to do with insurance marketing. So we really feel like we are a voice of authority in this space. We're probably spending more than, I would say there's not too many more people that are spending more than us in the insurance marketing space specifically. I'm sure there's bigger dogs and bigger carriers that are kind of throwing money in there, but they're never going to lift the curtain up and talk about their secrets because they have tried to, control that. Well, what I'm going to try to do in the insurance marketers show is going to be just trying to educate you guys. What's the crowd doing? What's the heartbeat? What's going on? And that's going to be the sort of the core of this show. So the first thing I want to talk about today is an interesting little topic that I am hearing go through, which is we're coming into quarter 4 of the year, which is October, November, December. And those 3 months are the most expensive advertising months in the whole year for traditional media, along with Facebook and Instagram. Why is that the case? Well, it's because, Thanksgiving, Black Friday, ads that cause us to compete with one another. So what I want to explain is something that is kind of technical, so I'm going to try and go slow, but I want to try and help you guys understand how these digital products work and why they work this way. So Facebook and Instagram is going to get more expensive as the months go on because there's more competitors competing for Betty's attention. Betty is going to be my example of the individual that we're trying to market and solicit a response from in the form of an insurance lead. So throughout the year, there's less competition to get Betty's newsfeed than there is in the last quarter of the year because of all the holidays. So what happens is those ads become more expensive, it becomes more crowded. I have to do more outbidding of competitors to get those impressions. Those impressions are more expensive, the cost per thousand goes up, which means our cost per lead goes up, etc. So the difference between Facebook and Instagram is that we're all competing for Betty. Now, I want you to understand what's on the other side of the coin, which very few people really get on the insurance marketing side because nobody really is doing Google AdWords because it's kind of like, not nobody. There's not very many people that are doing Google AdWords compared to Facebook because with Facebook and Instagram, you can kind of dabble with $500 or $600 at a time. With Google, you really need like at least $1,000 to spend a month. So there's just not a lot of people that are in Google compared to Facebook. That doesn't mean that the lack of competition is the reason that is cheaper, because actually the insurance keywords on Google are actually some of the most expensive keywords of all because the big dogs are sort of fighting over those keywords as well. And so those keywords are somewhat bid up. But I want to explain something different with Google and YouTube. So Google is the #1 search engine in the world. The #2 search engine in the world is YouTube, meaning there is more searches on YouTube than there is on Bing and Yahoo combined, right? So Google's #1, YouTube's #2, and then everyone else. So if you were to look at your Google Analytics, you can actually find the source of traffic. And if you have a healthy search engine optimization line of traffic coming to your website, I can go tell you which search engine they came from and like 98% of the traffic will be Google, and like 2% will be Bing and Yahoo. And that's the two people that had Bing and Yahoo already installed on their PC whenever they set it up and just clicked on Internet Explorer. And then Internet Explorer opened up Bing. You know, that's the only reason that those searches are happening, is they think they're in Google. In fact, a funny story with Bing, do you know what the #1 searched keyword term on Yahoo and Bing is? It's Google. It's just so funny to me. So it's like, not only is Google and YouTube the top #1 and #2, the most searched term on Yahoo and Bing is Google. So that means that people are using Yahoo and Bing to find Google. It cracks me up. So that means it's just funny. So anyways, now what I want to try and get to is I want you to understand that during these busy times, especially AEP for Medicare, during these hot times where all the shoppers are going and Googling these terms, so the way Google works is different than Facebook, Instagram. Facebook, Instagram competes to try and get in front of Betty with all the other categories of advertisements. Google and YouTube does not. What Google and YouTube does is only targets the keywords in the actual segment that Betty is searching, showing her buyer intent. What I mean is that Medicare AEP, open enrollment, Medicare open enrollment time frame, Medicare rep in my area, Medicare Advantage rep in my area, Medicare supplement plan shop, those types of keywords. What happens is during AEP and during this time of the year, the actual amount of searches explodes in the Medicare specific arena. Also life insurance, because everyone's thinking about their sort of health, and it's just kind of like a explosion of actual activity from Google's perspective. Well, what that does is that increases the supply of actual searches for the keywords that we want. So it actually decreases the cost of our leads for Medicare on Google and YouTube, as opposed to increasing. The reason that is because all the Googling individuals that are doing it, because of all the direct mail pieces they're getting, and all the TV ads they're seeing, and all the Facebook ads they're seeing, they're going to Google and Googling like a Medicare agency or whatever. So because the supply of actual searches flies through the roof, our cost per lead actually drops with Google. So if you guys are using Facebook a bunch and banging your head against the wall during this last quarter of the month, I would encourage you to potentially think about going to a Google YouTube strategy, because it's specifically Google, really. YouTube is not as ideal, but it's actually cheaper now to get leads than any other, especially if you have like some like multi-state, like if you're telesales and you have like a multi-state large geography that you're trying to capture on Google. Now is actually the cheapest time to get Medicare leads specifically. It's the most expensive time to get Facebook leads. So most people don't understand this, and so what happens is, and I think it's hilarious, is that all these guys that don't know what they're doing, they just throw money at Facebook, Instagram. They're like, well, our cost per lead's tripled, so sucks, it's just this part of the year, raising their hands. And it's like, well, what really the skilled individuals are doing is pivoting that budget over to Google, at least a portion of it, to get those calls, interest, landing page leads, etc. on Google, because that's when our costs are dropping. So it's like, what I find that the best sort of strategy to go for is not what everyone else is doing, because it's all a big auction. We're all competing, right? So if let's just say hypothetically in my town there's 15 Medicare agencies and we all wanted billboards in my town, what do you think the billboard company would do to the price of the billboard? Obviously they would raise them. Well, Google is the same exact way, same with Facebook in general. I'm sorry, Facebook is the same way. Google's not the same way. Facebook and Instagram are the same way, because they're basically saying, look, it's an auction. Whatever you're willing to pay is what you're going to get, per lead or whatever. But Google basically says, no. Based on the amount of searches, we now have, we had 1,000 searches a month in your area for Medicare. Now we have 3,000. That means your costs are going to drop per lead. So I would highly recommend any of you guys that have heavy budgets, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month budgets, $1,000 a week budgets, those types of things. If you're just banging your head against the wall with Facebook, then I would encourage you to pivot some to YouTube, and not YouTube, Google first and then YouTube. Now, that's not to say that Facebook and Instagram don't work during this period of the year. That's not to say that at all. But if you're a big budget spender that actually is interested in shaving $2, $3 off your cost per lead, and that's a big number to you, then you would probably want to think about this type of strategy. Now, starting it now is maybe a little too late to like really capitalize on that, because it takes some time to optimize and get things where you need to be from a Google perspective. You also have to build a landing page. So if you're interested in sort of going that direction, now is the time to act on building the landing page, getting things set up, because it does take 30, 60 days to really optimize that Google campaign, as opposed to Facebook. Facebook is more like, we've learned what works and we can kind of place you at the bottom of the cost per lead from a Facebook, Instagram standpoint. The thing that's raising the cost is the competition. With Google, it takes time to find, because every market's different. Every market has different competitors. It just depends. So that's one of the things that I wanted to try and explain as we go into Q4 with insurance marketing, is that it's a different ball game than the other 3 quarters, but it's also an opportunity for those that are smart to like really capitalize on some good traffic, because there's gonna be a lot of people that are Googling AEP in Medicare agencies, and I've heard Medicare professionals call this, bigger picture. Let's not say the year, but let's talk about the next 5 years, is like what's called like a land grab, meaning the Medicare professionals and salespeople and agencies that are going to go after this heavy now are trying to grab land. And once you get that book of business built up, like I know an agency right now, we just had them on the podcast. If you go look, a couple previous videos on our YouTube channel, I just interviewed Justin Brock. That guy's probably going to get 6 to 8,000, Medicare. I can't remember exactly the number. Medicare policies this year. That's crazy. They only have 7 people in their office. 7 people. It's not like a big call center. It's not like a big, setup. It's basically a dude that's spending a lot of money on Facebook, Google, YouTube. He has a good website, and he does a lot of business, man. And he's only an office of 7 people. So go watch his podcast that Cody and I interviewed him on, and I encourage you to kind of check that out. So that's kind of what my brain is moving. I'm talking to a lot of my bigger Medicare clients now, trying to figure out how we're going to be pivoting for AEP, what we're going to be doing differently, how it's going to look, etc. And then we're just going to go from there. So I appreciate you guys joining me on this call, or this live show that we're doing. We're going to be doing this every week on Thursday. I hope you guys found some value. Leave a comment below if you have any questions. Also, if you have any topics that you want me to cover in the next week's shows, I'm happy to do that. I actually love doing that. If you guys have any questions that are, hey, what about this? What about this? What about this? I would love to kind of go through that. So thanks for joining me. We'll talk again next week.